Okay, morning traders. Hope we're well. It looks like the pullback, the correction is over. I don't know what everyone else thinks, but there surely is some funny business going on in the markets. So, um, hey, Jason, let me know if you can hear me okay. Firstly, I've got to check that each day. I'm pretty sure I am good to go and working cleanly. Loud and good, legend, thank you very much. So, yeah, we was watching the Open of Europe, and that caught a lot of people off guard. I think, well, quite a few off guard. A lot of strength come into that market on the Open, and that was a bit unusual. So we're discussing this yesterday. The fact that the Nasdaq in the US sold down lower, sold down further from when the European markets closed. So you would have expected naturally, every other day of the week and every other trading session that Europe would have opened weaker. But the thing is, they actually opened up and rallied from there. So it was pretty much a one-way street, which to me, and you can see the price action the way it's moving, very, very strange indeed. So I don't know if central banks are out there buying ETFs or stock ETFs just to buoy that market, knowing that they don't need this sell-off into the Nasdaq. They need to halt that. Don't know, but it was strange action, and that was sort of unexpected, and that lifted the markets. It was pretty much, if you go and look at the Hang Seng charts, a lot of different charts, straight up. There was no real pullbacks. It was just a constant pressure through the European session, and then into the US session, which everyone opened up, and buying into big tech was back on the cards again. The sentiment and shifted, pretty much changed dramatically from bearish to bullish. So markets bounced quite strong. And we're going to look at, there's going to be an open, probably about 80 points up, I would expect, on the ASX, which would, just get over there, which would take us, what was that? Somewhere around the 60 mark. Probably targeting back up to 6,000 today. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But yeah, it's going to be a good open. And whether we're going to get some selling into that open or bounce or what's going to happen, well, I generally expect retail is going to open it, go a bit of bargain hunting, look at Nasdaq. Look, just this is the usual stuff. Another bounce. I mean, we don't know if it is just yet, and there's a lot of water to go under the bridge still. But this could be a breakdown. But a lot of the times the market's broken down a level, looks like it's breaking the trend, and then bounce straight back up in the new highs. So that's the concern at the moment, and the fact that about 3 or 4 companies rallied last night. So what was it? Amazon, Microsoft, one other, Google, I think, all up over 3%. So they got well and truly lifted, which lifted the Nasdaq in turn, which then lifted the S&P, and the Dow was just dragging its feet behind, only slightly though. So we'll get into overall markets, and things like crude bounced. It's a good sort of risk on into crude again. So still weighted down. I mean, if you go and look at a chart, which we'll do in a minute, actually, we'll go and look at that now once we get it over and done with. Let's just go here, and crude I want to look at. So you can see crude, big sell-off here, based all day, right up to the European Open. As soon as Europe opened positive, you can see 5 o'clock, bang, up crude goes. I mean, unexpected for crude. They weren't anticipating some strength. Anticipating, really, I think there would have been a lot of sellers. You can see these lower highs holding. A lot of sellers expecting this market's going to break through the low because Europe's going to open up at least a bit of a clean out of some stops. Take out some sell stops, jam lower, and just see what happens from there. But instead, Europe's actually straight off the bat opened up stronger. And let's just see if I'm right. DAX. So that 5 o'clock, where was it? 5 o'clock, here you go. So 5 o'clock open, rally straight up. What's that? 50, 60, 70 points. So that's a big open from the DAX, which was expecting weakness. And the same from the FTSE. FTSE opened straight up, so ramped up on the open, which is unusual. I'm just saying. Don't want to be a skepticist, but yeah, so many things are weird in these markets. It's not usual price action. So that was crude, ramping up, still weighted down. We've got around the 39.50 zone holding the market down. This could be just a pullback, holding MAs potentially again, looking for another run through those lows at 36. Don't know just yet. Longer term, let's just go into the daily. It's rolling over a bit, and it might have just starting to bounce off those MAs. Pretty much been sideways action for a long time now, just waiting for this market to recover. And I think that action from last night is potentially, people are probably reading into it. It's the same as what we've seen before in the Nasdaq. let's go and look. Actually, we'll look at copper while we're here. Copper's another thing that's good for the markets. You can see the dailies grinding up. Probably from that dailies is quite positive. Trend is up. Trend is your friend. There's lack of supply concerns, which is supporting the market. And of course, with that US dollar sinking, is also going to support the price action. And I think everyone is just sort of anticipating that this is going to break back up through the highs. We're going to chop around here, hold higher lows, and we're going to break up through the highs on a recovery, global recovery. Market's still brushing aside any negative news. And it's not really, I don't feel that they're brushing aside on the further fact that stimulus is going to come back in, because I don't know if maybe stimulus in Europe, further stimulus in Europe, but whether the US is going to come out and give another $2 trillion, I don't believe so. So I don't think that's what's driving the market higher. I think it's just purely, that momentum play. And that's the move down on the NASDAQ, and you can see it gapped up on the open and never looked back, which is kind of weird after the previous sessions selling. This session gapped down, traded through the lows, and then we've just popped back up. Whether we're going to get a lower high here and jam through those lows tonight or the next coming days is unknown just yet. The longer term trend, I don't know why I have to keep changing that. That's the longer term trend, okay? But if you go, and if you've been doing this for a while, say we'll just draw a line up, say you were trading up through here, okay? And then at that stage, you had a pullback and then we made new highs, okay? So you readjust, okay? Same here, into new highs, and then you readjust. You can see what's happening, flush, ramp. Then you've got this sort of trend line from here. Are we going to do the same thing? And that's the tough thing, because if there was selling and curling here, because we've been extended so many times, and we continue to get further extended, because it's the only trade in town at the moment, buying the tech, and just watch those gains, because I think they look at that as COVID-19 or what does it call it? Pandemic infallible, is that the word? Where they're just brushing aside anything negative, and they'll just continue to go up. They're not going to affect the stock prices. That's what I think the general view is now. So the fact that we jumped down, we washed out some buyers, put them back on the sidelines, ramped to new highs, washed them out, ramped, and just the same old thing. We've ramped to new highs. We need to clean out some late buyers. Potentially this is a thing, and then we have to go again and readjust support zones. Don't know just yet, and that potentially is the scenario. So we'll see what happens in coming days. Whether that's going to be the case, and we're going to ramp back up and just consolidate here. We might do some, price action like this, chop around, clean out, reset, and then start to lift again. We might take some time to do that over the coming months and ramp. So I think it's basically going to be held up until US elections. So there's no need really. I mean, the S&P is same sort of scenario, potentially breaking down, but it just depends. Is that the same sort of scenario we're going to do? Same sort of thing. If you had it here, roll, didn't roll, okay, didn't roll, didn't roll, didn't roll, and you're just continually adjusting your support zones as you expect. This is the roll, and that's the beauty of what I'm always talking about: getting onto the shoulders, trading off the shoulders, the lower highs. You don't trade just because we've broken down. You don't trade through a trend line. You trade off a shoulder, and it's times like this. I mean, that you can be late to the party, but you've got more than enough fat in the trade on the way down to justify, your risk approach, I guess. So that's what I'd be looking for. If we come up here and we start to get heavy here and we start to break down again, we look for those short-term breaks, then it's worth jumping in short and looking for that extension. Now, if it falls short of those lows, then yeah, you're probably going to see that we're going to do something like this. We're going to correct and go back higher again. So still, I mean, it's one of those things. Where do you put your risk? Where do you get yield from? It's not bonds. Bonds are paying out next to nothing. Where else to put, crude oil, you can see was gone sideways. There's other areas you can probably nibble at. Gold, there's a big talk that gold's going to 2,000, but maybe not. That's been talked about many times in the past, and then we've had a correction. So this could be the time. We don't know. So really, stocks at this stage, and particularly big tech, a handful of stocks you can get yield from, and that's been the play for a while. And couple that with the the call buying scenario from SoftBank. So there is some fuel to come out of the market if that turns sour, but it's also easily loaded up on more calls and to keep supporting that market artificially. All right, so we're going to have a look at, how do you say that? Look at Ether. Ethereum, I'm just going to have a quick look at some cryptos. I think there's some plays there. Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, you can see we've talked about this for a while. If can a base here, and there's nothing to say we're basing him. Every bull you go and read Twitter, you get all the crypto warriors looking at get into Bitcoin now on the pullback. I mean, that could be the case, but it may not be. Okay, we don't know just yet. This is the daily chart we're looking at. We've had this big pullback, broken that trend, consolidated here, popped back up. We're at this zone now where we would expect it needs to hold. Now, if it break down through this level, it's not. We've got a deeper correction, and there's going to be a lot more complex correction. We say a complex correction meaning, pop up, lower, high, all that sort of stuff, and it's going to take take a lot of time to work out. And then you'd be looking at shorts in that play, short-term shorts. So if we hold around this zone and we can start to lift, then you want to hold some higher lows. You want to do something like this, contraction volatility, and look for that expansion back up. So back down to the 30-minute chart. So that's a key level. So at the moment, we're not doing that. We're just holding support. We're holding. We've flushed it out here. We've lifted, but we're heading back south again off a potential lower high. So you've got these lower high here, potentially another lower high coming into play now. Okay, so that's the concern. We need to hold off this zone. We need to hold a higher low if this is going to be the area to work off. Okay, so you want to see some sort of action like this. You want to see if sellers are going to come in and try to push it lower, you want to see that soaked up, and you want to see it soaked up at a higher level, meaning buyers are stepping in at a higher level, are willing to jump in at higher prices and not wait till it gets down there because they're eager. Okay, it's as simple as that. And if we start to lift, sellers might take their pedal off the gas a bit, and we might see that price lift. And if that's the case, that's going to drag in more. So as soon as you start breaking through some of these lower highs, that's going to drag in more buyers, and the bull's going to be in charge for a bit and see where they can ramp it. All right, so the other one you want to look at is Ether. We'll look at that, and then we get on to our intraday stuff. Same sort of scenario. It's been potentially this is the zone we're going to be concerned about on the short term. I'd suspect it's the same. Let's go to the daily when we get a chance. I've got a lot of rubbish on here, but you can see that longer term daily's come down. We big base in here. We started to lift off that base, so it's a prime area. If we can, it's a prime area to hold, or maybe a tad lower from here. We might just have to flush out some. You can see this chop here. We might flush out down lower and then start to bounce. Okay, but it's a prime candidate to be able to hold a lower high potentially in this zone, somewhere in this zone around the 309, 310 zone. Okay, so that's longer term. That's if that plays out. So if you go to the shorter term charts, that's a higher low there. If we can hold it now, if we jump up through this high, say 360, we may flush lower and then start to lift. It looks like it could be finding some support. Okay, so it's not looking too bad at all. So we might actually alert to that. We'll see how we go. So what I'd be looking for is, you can see sellers are coming in again, and they're expecting lower prices. So if that's the case, we may get some sort of action like this, and then if we can work some longs and start to lift, get up through this high, and I think that could squeeze up, and then basically you could be targeting up towards 394, 400, and so on. And it's, of course, if Bitcoin starts to lift as well, that could be looking good. All right, we'll get off that. We'll go over to intraday stuff, and then we just see, so the Nikkei's opened and contained at this stage. Potentially the MAs look like it's going to roll. It's an extended move, basically from, that was 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock. You see that 5 o'clock open, ramp, and then that pullback stuck the MAs, held all the way up until the close at around 5:30, 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. Melbourne time anyway. So if that's the case, we start to stick here, we could extend. I'm just waiting to see. I think the market will just be sitting there going, well, we're extended now. Are you willing to buy up here? Maybe not, because we're into a clear cut resistance zone at 23,290. Might be waiting for, excuse me, grab a drink, the Hang Seng to open. Okay, so that might be the play here. We've got support down at 22,840, so you're well off support. Really, for new positions, I'll be looking to enter off some weakness off this resistance 23,290 to see if some of these buys can get cleaned out. If we just start to jam lower from here, maybe we've got a scenario where it pops up off these MAs at longer term just to clean out some buys, and we start then accelerating into the highs. So a few things to watch. We just need some more data on that. Wall Street, not really concerned about that today. I think, okay, we backed off into the close, about 200-point drop into the close. Still end up 400, 430, 440 off the highs. Sorry, off the lows. So still a good session, but just a bit of a clean out. Probably intraday, people just closing out some longs. Booked some gains. Probably didn't expect that. Went long early, kept going, close into the close. So close out or square up into the close. I got ECB out tonight as well, which could throw a bit of cat amongst the pigeons. But not really anyone's expecting too much in that way. So yeah, we're probably looking for this level. If this level holds 27,860 thereabouts, we can get a higher laugh there. You're probably looking for a ramp through 28,350 and so on. It's momentum's down, the trend is down, but we've just popped up above the longer term MA, the weighted MA. So if it holds up there, we might need to do some work. Then we can get a secondary lift, like I said. If not, you're just looking for that grind lower back through that support. Hang Seng, the SPY is open, so we'll look at that in a second. Hang Seng was just straight. You can see that move up. So that was right from about 4 o'clock, but just up one pullback really. And this minor pullback was within the previous candle, so it really wasn't a pullback. It was just a sideways action. We kept ramping up right up until the close at 5 o'clock, where we saw this is all CFD action, not the futures. Futures close was here at 5 o'clock, was up at near these highs. Okay, so that's the level we've just got an eye on today. And if it hangs around there, there might be a spike up into these highs around 24,850. If, again, it can hold above these MAs, but it's done that previously. Done this and then just bang, straight down again. So longer term resistance up here, we've come back down to the support zone. So is that the level we're starting to look up? It could be a good little ramp today. We'll just wait and see. And futures just opened up at this level at 59.62. SPY, again, I don't want to see the action from yesterday, which was just this chop in here, just whipping out. It's going to be a tough gig. That just goes to show that any bearish action, they were trying to soak it up. I mean, I don't like that kind of thing. When it's bullish, it just ramps. There's no doubt about it. But when it's bearish, it's really choppy. Whether it's ETF buying, I don't know what's going on, but it's just, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll have to keep an eye on that to see if that just chops around between these lows and highs. If it can hold off these lows, and we may squeeze out with a push lower. I'm expecting the euphoria, typical buy the dips mentality to hold it up around this level and potentially push it up to 59.98. Which would mean up over 100 points. We made back all the losses from yesterday on the ASX. All right, that's about it all, guys. I hopefully got something out of that. Now, if you want to join in the Discord channel, the live intraday trading session we run, so it's about from 11 o'clock Melbourne time, so in an hour, until about 2. Just send us an email to support@tradesetup.com.au and help us spread the word a bit. So thanks for joining us, guys. If you like what you hear, leave us a like on the YouTube channel. And we'll be back in tomorrow to finish off the week. All right, guys, enjoy your day. We'll speak to you soon.